Part 8. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 71. After dinner, I went shopping and felt full of energy. Lu Zhang took Feng Qingxiu to the department store, stopped in front of the fabric counter, and took out a large stack of fabric tickets. "Comrade, let's buy cloth. Show us some more." Seeing that both of them were wrapped in military coats, Lu Zhang was wearing a military uniform under his open coat, and the epaulets were particularly obvious. The salesperson who was knitting a sweater at the counter immediately stood up and greeted them warmly. "What kind of cloth do you want to see, comrade? The goods we just bought here are all top quality." "Qingxiu, what color cloth do you like to wear?" Lu Zhang turned to Feng Qingxiu and asked. "You can just pick the cloth you like. Let's buy the cloth first, and then buy the clothes, shoes, and socks. I have no shortage of clothes to wear, so I don't have to waste money. In fact, the clothes made by Aunt Sue and brought back from the Feng family are enough to change." Lu Zhang said, "How can it be wasted? You can choose what you should buy. The tickets in my hand are completely enough." Feng Qingxiu hesitated for a moment and took a closer look at the fabrics on the counter. They were more abundant and better than those in county department stores. There were cotton, khaki, denim, corduroy and other types. The colors were basically black, blue and gray. There are three kinds. The brighter one is military green, and there is also a piece of black, red, and gray plaid wool. Other than that, there are no brightly colored fabrics. The saleswoman in her 30s was very discerning and hurriedly said to Feng Qingxiu, "What color do you like, Gay? I'll get you whichever one you want. Look at this plaid, it looks the best on a coat, and this piece of army green khaki. We want this tartan." Lu Zhang decided on the only piece of wool before Feng Qingxiu could say anything. The salesperson smiled broadly and said, "Okay, comrade." After careful consideration, Feng Qingxiu finally chose blue labor cloth and military green khaki, each of which was large enough to make a piece of clothing. "These are enough." "Are these enough? I told you, you don't have to be polite to me." After Lu Zhang finished speaking, he pointed at two kinds of blue and black labor cloth, two kinds of black and blue corduroy, three kinds of blue, green, and black khaki cloth and other cloths and said to the salesperson, "Each of them needs 20 feet, and then pull two pieces of 2 pieces 10 feet of muslin should be blue with small floral prints and white." Feng Qingxiu hurriedly said, "Brother Lu, there is no need to buy so much cloth. I finally came here and bought what I wanted. Anyway, the army manages food and housing and distributes clothes according to seasons. The cloth coupons collected by these comrades are expired and will not be used in my hands anymore," Lu Zhang said at the beginning. "I plan to buy more cloth and clothes for her. I remember when my brother hired his sister-in-law, there were 80 pieces of silk and satin cloth alone and dozens of sets of clothes for all seasons. How much can you do now? Insignificant compared to that." Feng Qingxiu couldn't resist him and could only watch Lu Zhang hand over the money and tickets. Cotton cloth costs 6 cents per foot, khaki costs 8 cents, denim and corduroy cost $1 per foot, and plaid wool is the most expensive at $10 per foot. This piece of woolen fabric is 8 feet 6 inches long, so it costs 8 cents. $16. Buying cloth not only costs money, but also requires tickets. The salesperson opened the ticket and put the money clip on a wire above his head, and with a whoosh, he was pulled away. After a while, the wire was pulled back, and there was only the change and receipt on the clip. The salesperson handed it to Lu Zhang, then quickly cut out the designated fabric, folded it, and said enthusiastically, "Comrade, I also have wool here, both wool and blended wool. Do you want it? You just came into the knitted sweater makes you feel warm when you wear it." Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 72. These are originally in short supply, and in the past, they were often sold out as soon as they were put out after winter. However, the market has been bad in the past 2 years. Who doesn't understand that famine has caused disaster? Grain stores in the city often restrict the supply of grain. Everyone who has some money in their hands rushes to the black market to buy high-priced grain. On the contrary, they don't care so much about clothes, as long as they have some to wear. Therefore, department stores now have sufficient goods, and there is a backlog of imported watches and other items that cannot be sold. After listening to the salesperson's words and seeing the colorful wool that the salesperson brought out, Lu Zhang was very excited. He felt that the sweater knitted with red wool would look great on Feng Qingxiu, but he knew that he did not have a wool ticket in his hand. "Do I have to use wool tickets to buy wool?" Lu Zhang asked. "You can also pay with cloth coupons." As soon as he heard that he could use cloth tickets to buy wool, Lu Zhang immediately took out a stack of cloth tickets and picked the red wool thread first. Wool thread is very expensive, 20 yuan a pound, and blended wool 10 yuan. But Lu Zhang was not short of money. He bought 4 pounds of red wool thread, 4 pounds of blue wool thread, and 4 pounds of blended wool thread. 12 pounds of wool is enough to knit several sweaters. Feng Qingxiu was speechless. "Brother Lu, that's enough. Why did you buy so much?" Although it wasn't her money spent, it still made her feel very distressed. After all, he spent several hundred just buying fabrics and wool. What concept? As far as she knows, the wages of many urban workers are only 20 or 30 yuan a month. Feng Qingxiu forcefully pulled Lu Zhang away from the counter. "Wait a minute, I haven't bought you any clothes or shoes yet." Seeing Feng Qingxiu walking towards the door, Lu Zhang hurriedly spoke. Feng Qingxiu stopped and turned to look at him, with a look of disapproval. "Didn't you say you have 2 pairs of shoes given by Commander Zhao's sister-in-law? What kind of shoes should I buy? These fabrics are enough to make many clothes. You don't have to buy clothes, but at least you have to buy a pair of shoes." Lu Zhang was resolute and took her to the shoe cabinet and directly selected a pair of the best Lantang leather shoes for 26 yuan. When buying shoes, the salesperson told Feng Qingxiu that Lantang leather shoes produced in Shanghai are a national famous brand. All the wives of national leaders wear shoes of this brand, which are very fashionable and classy. This pair of black leather shoes is indeed exquisite and comfortable on the feet, and Feng Qingxiu chose a more classic evergreen style. She thought the shopping could end here, but Lu Zhang took her to the watch counter again. "Unfortunately, I don't have a watch ticket in my hand, so we will buy an imported watch. I remember the group leader said that imported watches are free of charge and are very durable. Among them, Swiss watches are the best, and the group leader owns one." Lu Zhang didn't give Feng Qingxiu a chance to react and directly asked the salesperson if they had any imported women's watches. Yes, is it a women's watch?" "There are several kinds, such as Rolex, Omega, Iniguor, as well as Rome and Plum Blossom. It is difficult to sell imported watches at present." When I heard that someone came to buy it, the salesperson was very enthusiastic. "Take them all to the counter and show them to Lu Zhang." What does Lu Zhang think? He has been pampered since he was a child, and nothing good can catch his eye, so he immediately fell in love with the only Rolex watch. It is made of 17 diamonds, all steel, waterproof, and shockproof, with dual calendars. It is more refined and luxurious than other imported watches, so he pointed to the watch and asked the salesperson, "How much does this cost?" The salesperson quickly replied, "The price is lower than in previous years. It is now 450. Men's and women's watches are the same price." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 73. 405. Feng Qingxiu gasped, Imported watches are so expensive. She was thinking just now that there was no need to pay for the imported watch and she would buy one for Lu Jiang in the future. To put it bluntly, in this era, watches were like wedding rings later. Lu Jiang bought her so many things, she was moved in her heart, and she should take action. She has no shortage of money. She also has a lot of supplies in her space. Fortunately, although imported watches are expensive, she can't afford them, and Rolex watches have always been a luxury item that maintains its value. In her thoughts, Lu Jiang was surprised for a few seconds after listening to the salesperson's words. After the price adjustment, it is really lower than in previous years. I remember that Captain Zhao bought the Rolex several years ago. It cost $550. Yes, the price has been reduced a lot. Moreover, Soviet watches are cheaper, ranging from 70 to 80 to 150. Just buy this one, not the Soviet watch. Among watches, Swiss watches have always been the best. After Lu Jiang finished speaking, he quickly took out the money and handed it to the salesperson. He was secretly glad that he had brought enough money with him when he came out today. Like the salesperson who sold fabrics, she clamped the money and bills on the clip on the wire above her head, and swished back and forth. It was also at this time that Feng Qingxiu discovered that the wires above her head were crisscrossed and seemed to be controlled by tracks. It's strange. This is the first time I've seen it. There's nothing like this in department stores in the county town. Here, let me put it on for you. After clearing the money, Lu Jiang picked up the watch and put it on Feng Qingxiu's left wrist. Looking at the shiny watch on his snow-white wrist, the bracelet was a little loose. Lu Jiang adjusted it smoothly. Since he couldn't wear jewelry, he could only settle for the next best thing. In the end, he still made his future daughter-in-law feel wronged. It looks good, I will wear it from now on. Feng Qingxiu smiled. Wouldn't wearing it make people jealous? If someone is jealous, there will be trouble. It's really hard to say how things are in this world. Lu Jiang knew that the composition of his family was already attracting attention, and he should indeed be more cautious. The two left the department store with large bags and entered the non-staple food store. Many counters inside were empty. There was no pork, eggs and other non-staple food, but there were still some hard candies and the like. Lu Jiang used the egg stamps to buy 2 kilograms of rice cakes, and used the sugar stamps to buy a kilogram of hard candies and the only kilogram of brown sugar left in the store. Girl, it's beneficial to drink more brown sugar, Lu Jiang told Feng Qingxiu. Thank you. Apart from these 2 words, Feng Qingxiu was so moved that she didn't know what to say. Passing by the cinema, Lu Jiang wanted to take her to see a movie, but there was no movie shown today, so he had to return with regret. After entering the Wanglu Brigade and approaching Wang Zheng's country, Lu Jiang got off the car and walked side by side with her, quite reluctant to leave. I will pick you up at your house in 3 days. Come to my house for a meal and deliver it in the afternoon. You go back. Feng Qingxiu had no objection, and Wang Zhenqiu was happy to see the result. As elders, after Lu Jiang left, Wang Zhenqiu and Miao Fengqin didn't ask what Lu Jiang had bought for his niece. Looking at the large and small bags brought back, they knew that Lu Jiang had spent a lot of money today. Feng Qingxiu gave half of the hard candies and brown sugar she bought to Miao Fengqin, who didn't want them. Don't be polite to me and your uncle. Take it back to replenish your and Xiaoun's health. You need it more than anyone else, Miao Fengqin said. After hearing this, Feng Qingxiu had no choice but to take it back. She heard Lu Jiang say that when he sent money and tickets to his father over the years, he often gave Wang Zhenqiu some food stamps, sugar stamps, cloth stamps, and the like. Therefore, the precious things that were difficult for others to obtain were actually not available to Wang Zhenqiu. Very easy. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 74. Feng Qingxiu took her sister away from Wang's house this time, and Lu Jiang had already arrived home. Seeing Lu's father feeding the livestock, Lu Zhang quickly took off his military coat and stepped forward to help, pouring baskets of fodder into various stone troughs. Due to natural disasters, the so-called forage is wheat straw, corn straw, bean straw, sorghum straw, rice straw, and sweet potato vines and peanut vines that are prohibited from being used by households to boil water for cooking. Occasionally, they are also harvested and dried. Cut the grass into small sections with a guillotine. During the off-season, Lu's father would do this kind of work. No matter how tired he was, he would be tired no matter how tired he was. He couldn't mow the grass alone, so he had to have his grandson help him. After finishing their work, the father and son sat on the ground on a pile of straw to rest. "Where are Tianjun and Tianzi? Why aren't they at home?" Lu Zhang asked about his two nephews. "I asked Tianjun to take Tianzi to practice calligraphy on the sand by the river at the back, and I'll call them after dinner." Father Lu never intended to let his two grandsons interrupt their studies. He began to train them to read and practice calligraphy when they were young. He did not abandon traditional scholarship just because the world thought it was dross. Lu Zhang said, "I brought 10 steamed buns back and made a fire to bake them in a while." The steamed buns were brought out from the state-owned restaurant. During lunch, there were 10 left, but 6 were left. Later, I bought 10 more, gave 6 to Feng Qingxiu, and took 10 back for myself. The steamed buns are hard, delicious and crispy when grilled. Have you bought all the clothes, shoes, and socks for Shuiyetu? If you haven't, I'll buy them next time. Father Lu is very concerned about his son's lifelong events. "I don't have enough money. I still have it here. You sent it to me all those years ago." "No, after spending it all, it's mainly because I don't have anywhere to spend it now." Lu Zhang picked up the military coat that he took off and put it on his father. "It's not even a matter of buying everything. I just bought some fabric and wool, a pair of leather shoes and a watch. I wanted to buy clothes for Qingxiu, but she didn't want to have them. I think the colors and styles of the clothes in our city are not good, and the quality is not good, so I will let her go and ask someone to buy 2 good-looking clothes from Shanghai and send them to me next time." Father Lu nodded slightly, accidentally touched something hard in the pocket of his coat, and took it out. "What is this?" Father Lu asked, looking at the well-packaged box he took out. "Huh? When did there be a box in the coat pocket? It's not mine." Lu Zhang always carried his money in the pocket of his military uniform. He had no idea what was in the box. He took it in his hand and tore open the package. He found that it was a box containing watches from a department store. What was inside was there is a watch. It is a Rolex 17 jewel all-steel waterproof and shockproof large 3-hand gold embossed men's watch. It is thick, practical, and not flashy. Father Lu stretched his head and took a few glances. Where did it come from? This watch didn't look cheap. It should have been bought by Qingxiu. Maybe she was afraid that I would disagree, so she secretly bought it and put it in my pocket. Lu Zhang quickly remembered that after leaving the department store, Feng Qingxiu had used convenience after being separated from him for 10 minutes. He also took his military coat for him when he was hot and sweaty from walking on the road. Except for her, no one else would buy such an expensive watch for herself. Lu Zhang took off the Omega that he had worn for many years and replaced it with this one. It looked so good no matter how beautiful it was. Father Lu looked very surprised when he heard this, and then slapped his knees and smiled. "This girl is more capable than we thought. I'm afraid her uncle doesn't even know about it. She didn't intend to hide it from you. If Feng Qingxiu were an ordinary farm girl, she wouldn't be able to afford a few hundred yuan and wouldn't have the courage to buy a watch. Except for very wealthy people, who would be willing to buy imported watches." Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 75. Although Lu's father was trapped in the Wanglu Brigade and could not move freely, because Lu Zhang was a soldier, he knew the situation outside. In this era when the average salary is 30 yuan a month, A watch is a person's annual salary, and most people who receive a salary need to bear the expenses of their family, including senior cotters, and have no money left to buy imported watches. That is to say, single young people like Lu Jiang, such as soldiers and sailors, are willing to buy it because they don't have to worry about family and their salary is high. Most of the imported watches sold, such as Rolex, Omega, Grand Rome, etc., are bought by them. The wind and snow are really not simple. Father Lu and Lu Jiang, father and son, looked at each other and understood each other tacitly. Feng Qingxiu's frankness made them feel very happy and happy. In the next 2 days, Lu Jiang kept running to the city to buy candy, food, and vegetables. Candies were given to the woman's family when she came to the house, while food and vegetables were used to prepare the meal for Feng Qingxiu on the day of the reception. The main purpose of Lu Jiang going to the city was to buy meat. He found that it was really hard to buy meat. He queued up at midnight the night before, and when it was his turn the next morning, there was no meat. In the end, he asked someone for help and only bought a piece of pork ribs and a pig's ear. Seeing that there were not enough dishes prepared at home, Lu Jiang went hunting in the mountains. In fact, due to excessive logging during the steel-making period in the mountains and the shortage of materials caused by famine, many people went to the mountains to find food. In the past 2 years, wild animals have rarely been seen, but Lu Jiang squatted in the deep mountains and wild forests among them. We still managed to catch 2 wild rabbits and a pheasant, and also fished out a wild big blackfish, some small crucian carp, and white snack sticks from the mountain stream. Father Lu took his 2 grandsons to clean the cowshed where their grandfathers lived, and specially scrubbed the cows, horses, mules, and donkeys in the cowshed, trying to leave a good impression on Feng Qingxiu. Even if they live in a cowshed, they are still good, clean people. Lu's father has been very particular about what he has been exposed to since childhood, but this did not change because of the decline of his family's fortune. At the same time, Feng Qingxiu was not idle at home. While she was replenishing Feng Qingyun's body with the trough cakes, candies, malted milk, etc. that she brought back, she was replenishing Feng Qingyun's body secretly with the supplements in the space, while dealing with the villagers who came to inquire about the news and take a wedding candy. After all, the meeting between her and Lu Jiang was not hidden from anyone at all. Feng Qingxiu is well-fed and well-fed, and she is becoming more and more beautiful. Some people are thinking about her. Now that they heard that she is dating someone, they are curious about why she fell in love with Lu Jiang, a person with a bad family background. On the other hand, they regret it. Didn't ask for matchmaking early on. After finally sending away the folks who came to inquire, Feng Qingxiu concentrated on making clothes. She was about to officially enter the Lu family. In order to show her importance, she decided to dress up properly. Dressing up is first reflected in clothing. So she used the newly bought tartan to make a coat, specially made into the style of a windbreaker, with lapels and double-breasted buttons. It was quite satisfactory, which was not unusual in this era. The length just reached the knee, with a corduroy jacket underneath. Black pants and blue tang leather shoes. Although she could sew and mend, she was not very fast, so she secretly used a sewing machine to make it. The black buttons and threads were all in the space, and the lining was made of gray fabric that was not eye-catching but very soft. She had prepared these things when she was preparing the sewing machine, and it came in handy now. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 76. The morning before I accepted the door, my clothes were finished. Feng Qingxiu tried it on the spot and found that the size was slightly loose. After all, she still had room to grow. Feng Qingyun squatted next to her with her cheeks in her hands. Sister, she's so beautiful. The person is good looking and the clothes are also good looking. This was the first time she saw such beautiful clothes. When she grows up, she will definitely ask her sister to make herself an identical one. Thinking of it, she couldn't help but say it. During this period of time, Feng Qingyun, who had been sensitive and timid since she was a child, had felt Feng Qingxiu's meticulous care, and finally learned to boldly make her own requests, no longer as cautious as before. Okay, Feng Qingxiu agreed, and reached out to rub her sparse yellow hair. Feng Qingyun is 5 years old this year and grew up in the 1970s. The style of the suit is not out of date. Thank you, sister, Feng Qingyun smiled and rolled her eyes like crescent moons. Feng Qingxiu took off her new clothes and folded them, then took out 2 cakes from the cupboard and stuffed them into her sister's meal. The trough cake is actually a chicken cake, made of flour, eggs and white sugar. It is baked into a brown color, very soft and sweet. Feng Qingyun especially likes to eat it. She fell in love with it when her aunt gave it to her. Feng Qingxiu didn't like to eat, so when her sister asked her if she wanted to eat, she just shook her head and said, "You can eat it yourself. The sun is very good today, and it feels warm on the body." Feng Qingxiu boiled a lot of hot water, mixed it with cold water, moved it to the yard, untied her hair, combed it a few times, washed it carefully, and then used a towel to absorb it. Dry the moisture, spread it over your shoulders and bask in the sun. Looking at her hanging hair, Feng Qingxiu sighed, the time was still too short. His hair was dry and yellow, and he was obviously malnourished. Although she paid great attention to maintenance after becoming Feng Qingxiu, she was unable to reach a healthy level in a short period of time. Make persistent efforts. Feng Qingxiu quickly cheered up. The most urgent thing at the moment was time. Malnutrition actually means lack of qi and blood. She was secretly glad that after gaining space, in addition to hoarding supplies, she also prepared a lot of things to nourish qi and blood for herself, which came in handy now. After her hair was dry, Feng Qingxiu combed it thousands of times, tied it into a low ponytail loosely, entrusted her sister to her second aunt, went out by herself, and came back with something, a gift she had prepared for the Lu family. Even though many people don't care now, she still abides by the proper etiquette. She never planned to go to the Lu family empty-handed from the beginning, just like Lu Zhang didn't have empty hands when he came to pick her up. When Lu Zhang came to the door, he brought a bag of candies, 2 cans of malted milk, and 2 bottles of canned yellow peaches, which was very thoughtful. Feng Qingxiu was at odds with her brother and sister-in-law, and there were no elders in the family, so she invited her second uncle and second aunt to come forward. Seeing that Lu Zhang was such a talented person and the gift was so valuable, they were extremely satisfied and their attitude was quite enthusiastic. Everyone probably knows that soldiers have abundant resources, and many folks from the Kahua brigade came to ask for sweets. The men were embarrassed to come over, but the only ones who came were women and children, looking at the candies on the table with burning eyes. Before Lu Zhang left the army, he got a lot of candy tickets from his comrades. This time he also bought a lot of candy, weighing 3 or 4 kilograms, all of which were fruit candies, because the department stores in the county did not have toffee. Feng Qingxiu has never been a stingy person, and she would grab a few candies when someone comes. Everyone has it in their hands, and there aren't many candies left on the table. This scene made second Aunt Feng feel so distressed that she hurriedly put the malted milk and canned food into the cupboard, and then urged Lu Zhang to pick up Feng Qingxiu. As the elder of her mother's family, she gave Feng Qingxiu a few words and just left Feng Qingxiu. The clouds stay at home. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 77. The Wanglu Brigade was not far from the Kahua Brigade, but Lu Zhang came on a bicycle, and the wind was very cold on the road. Feng Qingxiu put on the military coat that Lu Zhang gave her before getting on the bus, which attracted the attention of the people who were still waiting at the door. Non-stop. Only then did they realize that Feng Qingxiu was dressed very differently. They had been staring at the food before. Candies are so precious, even if they only get 3 or 2, they will be happy for a long time. That's a military coat, right? It's new and looks really nice. I don't know who spoke first, and then everyone spoke. I know, I know. I heard that Lu Zhang gave it to Qingxiu or brought it back from the army. I have seen it at Qingxiu's house and touched a few. The lining is made of lamb skin, which is very soft and warm. I heard that military coats made of this kind of material are only available to senior generals in the army, and ordinary soldiers don't get this kind. Senior general? How old is an officer? At least he must be a major. My dear. So Lu Jiang's rank in the army is not low. That's what I said. Those leather shoes are really bright. They were bought by Lu Jiang, right? There is no one else except Lu Jiang, and Qingxiu has no money. None of us knew that these two sisters went out naked. There's also a tartan coat and corduroy trousers, all new. This girl Qingxiu is so lucky. Who would have thought that she would marry someone like Lu Jiang? She is a soldier and has money. Qingxiu is very good looking. Have you ever seen a girl in our team who is more handsome than her? Yes, I knew she was a beauty when she was skinny. Now her uncle brings food to her. After eating, she naturally gains weight and looks much prettier than before. The little girl Qingyun has also changed a lot. Feng Qingxiu and Lu Jiang left the Kahua brigade amid these secret discussions. Qingxiu, what's in the basket? It's so heavy, Lu Jiang asked while pedaling his bicycle. Before going out, he took Feng Qingxiu's backpack. Good guy, it must have weighed dozens of kilograms. At that time, his hand sank. Now the backpack is hanging on the side of the back seat of the bicycle, and it does not affect Feng Qingxiu's ability to sit on the back seat. Feng Qingxiu smiled and said, "It's just some gifts, nothing else." What gift is so heavy? Lu Jiang was very puzzled. He knew it when Feng Qingxiu took it out at home. The most eye-catching gift was a jar of wine, which weighed more than 20 kilograms including the jar and the wine. Feng Qingxiu once asked her uncle about Lu's father's hobbies and knew that he used to like to have a drink or two. Even now, Lu Jiang will buy him a few bottles of Maotai every time he comes back to visit relatives. Father Lu used to be pampered and very picky. He was unwilling to drink ordinary wine. Although the wine prepared by Feng Qingxiu is not at the level of top-notch national wine, it is also top-grade among northeastern pure-grain wines. There are a lot of medium to high-grade northeastern pure-grain wines stored in the space. They are all distilled wines, not the kind that are blended with flavors. Okay. Good boy. Good wine. Father Lu opened the jar on the spot and smelled the aroma of wine, showing an intoxicated expression. The seal was naturally changed by Feng Qingxiu, not the original mud seal, otherwise the year, month, and day of brewing on it would easily be revealed. In addition to the jar of wine, Feng Qingxiu also prepared some fruits and snacks. The fruits are all apples, tangerines, and tangerines that are not very good in quality. The latter are spiced peanuts, broad bean blossoms, boiled eggs, and dried soybeans, all of which are currently on the market. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 78. Seeing these things, Lu Jiang immediately said, "Qingxiu, you are too polite." Feng Qingxiu smiled and said, "Don't be polite to me. It's not a particularly valuable thing. Although it's not expensive, it's rare. My dear boy, you've got your heart set on it." Both Lu Jiang and Father Lu knew very well that these things were scarce materials, often sold in limited quantities, and they had a price but no market. The implication is that you have money, but you have no place to buy it. Take the lives of residents in their city as an example. Each person has a supply quota of half a caddy of shelled peanuts or half a caddy of melon seeds every year. They are only available during the Chinese New Year, and the supply exceeds demand. Although Lu Jiang had plenty of food in the army, most of it was just meager food, and scarce supplies were in limited supply. They had to admire Feng Qingxiu's ability to get these things, and felt that they had underestimated her before. Because the Lu family's status was not good, everyone in the Wanglu brigade stayed away, so even though they knew that Lu Jiang would pick up Feng Qingxiu today and that there would be sweets at home for the folks who came to watch the fun, no one came to the door. Wang Zhenqiu and Aunt Wang wanted to come over, but they were afraid that they would attract attention if they got too close, so they simply stopped coming. Before that, the brother and sister had greeted Father Lu. Father Lu didn't care, but felt that they felt more comfortable now that no outsiders were disturbing them. Tianjun, Tianzi, come here quickly. Lu Tianjun took his younger brother Lu Tianzi's hand and turned around from behind the cowshed. As soon as he entered the door, he heard his grandfather's call. He quickly responded and walked over, looking at Feng Qingxiu curiously. They future aunt. It didn't matter. The younger Lu Tianzi immediately opened his dark eyes. Feng Qingxiu also recognized Lu Tianzi as the child he met when he first came to Wanglu Brigade and was called a Category 5 brat by a group of children. Unexpectedly, he was Lu Jiang's nephew. Auntie, Lu Tianzi opened his mouth. Lu Tianjun, who was a step slower, glanced at his brother helplessly, and then called aunt. Although Lu Jiang and Feng Qingxiu are not married yet, they are basically settled, and it is not an exaggeration to call them aunt. Feng Qingxiu's face felt a little hot, out of embarrassment. Call me Aunt Chue. She touched Lu Tianzi's head. She couldn't afford to be such an aunt now. Lu's father and Lu Jiang were obviously aware of this. Although they were happy to hear their two children call them aunt, changing their names was a matter after marriage and they should abide by this etiquette, so Lu Jiang said, I will call you aunt in the future, but now called Aunt Chue. Aunt Chue, Lu Tianjun and Lu Tianzi had no choice but to change their words after hearing this. But Lu Tianzi, who looked up at Feng Qingxiu, looked very happy, and his eyes narrowed to a slit. Father Lu and Lu Jiang were very puzzled. Lu Jiang immediately asked, Tianzi, do you know Aunt Chue? Recognize it? Didn't I tell my grandpa? That day, many people chased me and wanted to beat me, calling me a 5-category brat. There was a very good-looking aunt who blocked them for me. She was Aunt Chue. Lu. Although Tianzi is young, he already understands his own identity. It is a very happy thing to have such an aunt who doesn't care about his identity and is willing to be kind to him. His brother told him privately that his aunt would definitely be the head of the family in the future. They had to be obedient and their aunt didn't hate them, so that they could grow up in peace. If their aunt didn't like them, their life would not be easy. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 79. After listening to Lu Tianzi's words, Father Lu suddenly realized. Lu Jiang didn't know about this, but Father Lu knew. He heard Lu Tianzi tell him that day, but he didn't expect that the girl who helped Lu Tianzi escape from being chased by a group of children was actually Feng Qingxiu. What a fate this must be. The most important thing is that what happened that day showed that Feng Qingxiu really didn't care about the quality of the ingredients. Father Lu's regard for Feng Qingxiu increased by 3 points. He was secretly glad that he still asked Wang Zhenqiu to be Lu Jiang's matchmaker when Wang Jiao did not agree to marry Lu Jiang. Therefore, he kept urging Lu Jiang to cook. I'm going to help. Although she was a spoiled customer, Feng Qingxiu couldn't do anything but let others prepare the food and eat it directly on the table. The Lu family does not have a kitchen, but there is a simple stove set up under the thatched shed outside the house. Animals are more noble than humans, and feed grains are often cooked and fed to them in winter, so every production team's cowshed has a cooking stove. There is a two-hole stove made of adobe, with two iron pots, one large and one small, covered with wooden lids. There are piles of bush firewood, cotton stalks, corn cob cores, branches and other firewood in front of the stove. Lu Jiang was busy cleaning the pots and lighting the fire. He was busy at both ends. He also joined the cooking class when he was in the army, but he hasn't done it for many years and his hands are very raw. It seems that he will have to pick it up in the future. You light the fire, I'll do the rest, Feng Qingxiu put on the black apron that Lu's father usually used for cooking. How can this be done? Lu Jiang wiped his face, not knowing it was stained with firewood ashes. Feng Qingxiu smiled and said, "What's wrong? All the vegetables and meat have been washed and placed in large and small plates and bowls. The oil, salt, sauce, and vinegar are fully prepared. Feng Qingxiu's main task is to fry the vegetables and meat one by one. She has not received professional chef training, and her cooking skills are at the level of home cooking, but it is enough." According to the Lu family's preparations, Feng Qingxiu thought for a while and quickly drew up a menu. Braised hare meat, braised pork ribs with radish, spicy and sour potato shreds, and Crucian carp soup. Radish and potatoes are all winter vegetables that are commonly stocked at home. As for the other vegetables and meat, she did not plan to cook them all, but left them for the Lu family to eat later. Lu Jiang sat on the futon in front of the stove to light the fire. He picked up a few sweet potatoes and buried them in the ashes under the stove. Before the meal is ready, the sweet potatoes in the ashes are overripe. Lu Jiang took out the sweet potatoes with a fire hook and said, "Qingxiu, please rest your belly first." The hare meat was stewed in the big pot and the ribs were stewed in the small pot. Feng Qingxiu was mixing the flour in the sand basin. The corn flour was mixed with sorghum flour and black flour. Hearing Lu Jiang's words, he turned around and smiled, "While it's hot, give it to Uncle Lu and the two children eat. I'm not hungry now, and I'm busy putting a circle of pancakes in the big pot. The rabbit meat is cooked, and the pancakes are also cooked." "Okay," Lu Jiang called his nephew, "take the sweet potatoes and eat them, and give one to Grandpa." The sweet potato was still very hot. It was so hot that Lu Tianjun, who had just picked up a sweet potato, switched his left hand to his right and blew on the sweet potato. Finally, it was no longer so hot. He peeled off the dark skin and dyed his fingers black, but the sweet potato was exposed. The white and soft flesh exudes an alluring fragrance. Lu Tianzi stood on tiptoes and looked into the cauldron. "Aunt Chui, what should we have for lunch? It smelled so good." Lu Tianzi couldn't help but take a breath, his eyes sparkling, and then he swallowed several mouthfuls of saliva. They have been eating the food cooked by Lu's father for these years. Lu's father always cooks the food half-cooked or mushy at the bottom of the pot. The noodles are often boiled into a lump and have no color or flavor at all. Feng Qingxiu put the last piece of pancake into the pot, closed the lid, lowered her head and said with a smile, "I've cooked a lot of dishes, I'll eat more later." Good. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 80. 3 dishes and 1 soup were put on the table, and with the dishes Feng Qingxiu brought to go with the wine on the plate, the table was also crowded. Father Lu sat at the top and took a breath, his expression exactly the same as Lu Tianzi. "It's full of color, flavor, and taste. This is the food that normal people eat. Compared with what we eat now, it's the same as pig food." He didn't care that what he was disparaging was his own craftsmanship. Feng Qingxiu pursed her lips and smiled. Lu Jiang poured a glass of wine for Father Lu, and Feng Qingxiu immediately handed over the chopsticks. Although the Lu family was in a state of poverty, they still had all the necessary living utensils, which were probably left over from the past. After all, how could ordinary people have rosewood chopsticks, wine cups, and dishes from the official kilns of the Qing dynasty? After taking a sip of the wine that Feng Qingxiu brought and eating 2 peanuts with his chopsticks, Father Lu said, the people who came to our house to ransack and smash things didn't know what they were doing. Only some of the things in the kitchen were saved. Those silk damasks who wouldn't grab the silks, gold, silver, and jewelry quickly. Just because they don't know the goods, doesn't mean they don't have a bad temper. Many of the antique porcelain and furniture were smashed and burned, and some of them had the foresight to enrich their own pockets. Just wait. Come on, our baby will definitely appear in the world in the future. Regarding this point, Feng Qingxiu agreed very much. Of course, they also destroyed many cultural relics, otherwise how could they fish in troubled waters? These people hid the antique calligraphy and paintings of Mei Xia very tightly. After a few decades, they quietly made a move and obtained a large amount of wealth. The reason why Feng Qingxiu knew the trick was because she heard her grandmother say that more than 10 years later, collecting became popular in the world, and the price of antiques increased day by day. Then, some particularly precious antiques that had been confiscated and destroyed by her grandmother's family appeared on the market. Calligraphy and painting, it was then that my grandmother knew that someone had not destroyed all the antique calligraphy and painting. After detailed inquiries, it was found that those antique calligraphy and paintings were leaked from the hands of the people who confiscated the grandmother's natal home. It's good for people to live. In this world, when everything can't be preserved, no matter how precious the antiques, calligraphy and paintings are, they are extraneous to life. Feng Qingxiu comforted the two children while taking clean chopsticks. Road. Lu Zhang nodded in agreement, that's right. Life is the most important. If you lose your life, you have nothing. Father Lu likes Feng Qingxiu more and more. Girl, they can eat by themselves. You can eat more food. You are welcome in your own home. When he said this, he truly regarded Feng Qingxiu as one of his family members. Uncle Lu, please eat, I won't cheat. There was a crucian carp soup on the menu. The soup was boiled to a milky white color. Feng Qingxiu did not make porridge alone. Everyone cooked with the soup, each serving a bowl. It was so smooth in the mouth that it was so fresh that it was almost swallowed by the tongue. After eating and drinking, Lu Tianjun took his younger brother out to play, leaving the adults talking in the room. Lu Zhang pressed down on Feng Qingxiu, washed the dishes and returned to the house, just in time to see his father handing Feng Qingxiu the meeting and engagement gifts. Feng Qingxiu opened the jewelry box and was shocked when she took a look. Uncle Lu, this is too expensive. I can't accept it no matter which one is worth a lot of money. Zhang, put that jade bracelet on Shuiyetu. After Lu's father said, he said to Feng Qingxiu, good boy, don't be polite to your uncle. The jade bracelet is a meeting gift for you, and it's also for Zhang. The dowry and gold jewelry that my mother left behind were the engagement gifts. Now I don't pay attention to the etiquette of betrothal. I will give them to you now and you can keep them yourself.